Hello, everyone, and welcome. We're thrilled that you can join us today for the latest Hopper Technology Solutions Research webinar. Today, we're going to be jumping into insights from our latest comprehensive research report named The Flexibility Imperative. What we'll go through today has a special focus on important insights for those consumers booking hotels and what it means for hoteliers. Since we're going a little bit deeper into the hotel's flexibility world, I'm joined today by two special guests. First is Colin Whitney, who leads flexibility at HTS. Next is Sebastian Leitner, who is the VP of Strategic Partnerships at Cloudbeds, one of our partners. Colin and Sebastian are going to tell us a little bit more about real live case studies for how enhanced flexibility offerings can improve the consumer experience and also the hotel's bottom line. Before I jump too far into the insights, I will share, I mentioned that this webinar is based on a research report that we recently released. We go into much more detail in the long form report into insights both for hoteliers, but also for travel providers, suppliers, and bank platforms. So if you are looking for an even greater level of detail into some other areas of this report, I definitely encourage you to download the report. I'll have a QR code at the end of the webinar. You can also find the report at hts.hopper.com. For a brief overview, this is new primary research that was commissioned by HTS. And what we really wanted to understand with this report is how is the consumer thinking about travel today? In this age of uncertainty, how has flexibility started to reshape how consumers are approaching shopping, booking, and also what brands they are returning to book with time and time again? It was very clear from the data that flexibility has shifted. It used to be a nice to have, maybe a little something extra for the consumer. It's now a competitive necessity in an environment where travelers are looking for more enhanced optionality throughout their booking and traveling process. I think some of the results we'll see today will resonate, some might be surprising, but overwhelmingly, there's going to be a really interesting story here about how flexibility is changing how we need to think about serving customers. Before I go too deep into the research, I will briefly touch on who we are at HTS. I know we have some audience members who are familiar with our brands and what we power, but HTS is the technology that powers global travel commerce. Through our own platforms and platforms powered by HTS Tech, we sell more than $6 billion worth of travel every year. Through partnerships with banks and credit issuers, we reach almost 900 million credit card holders worldwide, a really interesting group of travel consumers, obviously, as a lot of travel booking is shifting more and more towards card channels. And most relevant for today, every year we are selling fintech to around 3 million customers, and that number is growing rapidly. We work with a range of travel providers and suppliers, bank platforms, even loyalty providers to distribute our technology and our fintech products. A sampling of those brands are below here, but you'll hear today from one of our fantastic partners, Cloudbeds. Now, let's jump into the topic that we're all most interested in. We can't talk about flexibility without first digging into what is the state of the traveler today and how they're engaging with flexibility as they approach travel. I don't think it comes as a surprise that over the past couple of years, uncertainty and disruption have become very top of mind for travelers. I pulled a couple of recent headlines that I think will be familiar to everyone in the audience. Soaring prices related to international conflict, air traffic control staffing issues causing mass flight cancellations and travel disruptions. Travelers today are facing more uncertainty around their travel plans, their expenses than ever before. This is not just reactive to the pandemic, but something that has become pervasive in the travel experience in the past couple of years, and it's impacting the anxiety and also the priorities of travelers as they think about shopping and booking that next trip. From a hotelier perspective, I'm sure you are also feeling that anxiety and uncertainty when it comes to revenue management and optimizing for profitability at a time when consumers themselves are changing plans at the last minute, and macroeconomic factors and global factors can impact consumers' ability to travel. So this uncertainty and disruption that is really permeating through the travel industry is something that is impacting the consumer psyche, but it's not yet impacting willingness to travel. And this is a data set that I think is so important to touch on, despite the fact that there is uncertainty and there is disruption impacting how consumers think about travel. That travel itself has remained steadfast. No matter how we at HTS have worded the question, what samples we have surveyed customers on, it's very clear that travel expenditure itself is being protected. Consumers want to take their vacations. They want to turn a work trip into a leisure trip. They are protecting that vacation and entertainment spend as much as possible. How they think about where those dollars go in their travel wallet is what's shifting. So when we asked 1,000 recent travelers, do you plan to book a hotel in the next 12 months? The results were overwhelmingly positive. About 3/4 of travelers said that yes, they will be booking a hotel in the next year. What's interesting is if I double click into some of our highest value segments of travelers, frequent travelers, those taking 5 or more trips a year, business travelers, including those who might be traveling for a mix of business and leisure, and young travelers, those falling into Gen Z and millennial age groups, they are all planning to book future stays at an even higher rate than the average traveler. Despite this uncertainty, despite economic headwinds, that future travel intent remains intact. What we need to understand is what's different about how those travelers are going to approach shopping and booking, what is different about what they need and the solutions that they're going to be looking for, because that is how we'll be able to capture those travel dollars more efficiently. Now, it's not often that when we ask a survey question, we get such an overwhelmingly positive result. But we asked a very simple question to our survey respondents, and that was, when thinking about that next hotel stay, how important is the flexibility to cancel your reservation? Overwhelmingly, 87% of future bookers said that it will be important to them that their next reservation has the flexibility to cancel. And overwhelming results like this tell us that this is not just a reactionary trend. This is something that is going to be important to travelers across a range of segments. 87% is a very high response rate, but it reaches even higher when we look again at those same 3 high-value traveler segments. Frequent, business, and young travelers are even more likely to say that flexibility is important when booking their next trip. 90% of frequent travelers, almost 94% of young travelers are saying that when they're booking, they will be seeking more flexibility, more enhanced flexibility offerings because it's important to them. Now, when we think about this shift, I've talked a lot about this more reactionary drive for flexibility from the past couple of years of uncertainty and disruption, but I do want to touch on the generational portion of this. Now, there is certainly some reactionary activity and why travelers are looking for more flexibility today, but we're also seeing a clear generational shift from consumers who are looking for more optionality. When we look at the amount of travelers who are changing or canceling plans after booking, Gen Z are making those changes nearly 2 times more often than their millennial counterparts. When we compare Gen Z to even older generations, Gen X or boomers, they are 3 to 4 times more likely to change or cancel plans after booking than any of those generations. This tells us that the future of travel and the future of travel expenditure is going to prioritize flexibility. Gen Zers today, they're building wealth. They are defining travel preferences that will pervade for the remainder of their travel spending years. And as they build that wealth, we're going to see them continuing to prioritize flexibility. They've already told us and shown us that it's important. We need to be ready to react with the right optionality so that we can continue to capture their spend now as they define preferences and retain that brand loyalty long term. And that brings me to the flexibility opportunity. It's clear that flexibility is a need, but what is the opportunity for turning that into not just something that meets consumer needs better, but something that can also impact positively the top and bottom line of a hotelier's business? We asked our same sample of consumers, would you be willing to pay a little bit extra for a flexibility solution that allows you to change or cancel your trip up until the last minute? And what we saw is about 2/3 of respondents say that yes, they are likely or even very likely to pay a little bit of extra to have enhanced flexibility options when booking their next hotel reservation. Much like what we've seen before, when we look at our highest value segments of travelers, they are even more likely to pay a little bit extra for enhanced flexibility offerings. 2/3 of all travelers say that they would pay extra. Frequent travelers, very similar. Those who are traveling for business, where flexibility is even more important as their meeting schedules and travel plans can change at the last minute, nearly 80% of those business travelers say that they're willing to pay for enhanced flexibility. 3/4 of Gen Z and millennials, again, signaling this generational shift and willingness to pay extra for enhanced optionality. There really is a broad appeal for flexibility offerings. Stepping back, we know that offering customers the right ancillary at the right moment can meet their needs and also drive incremental ancillary revenue. But what we're also seeing is that offering consumers the right optionality also enhances brand affinity for the travel brands selling that optionality. When we ask consumers, are you more likely to book with a brand that's offering you that optionality, whether they choose to pay for it or not? Overwhelmingly, again, 2/3 of travelers say that yes, they are more likely to book or prefer a brand offering optionality. And that increases with our highest value traveler segments. As many as 3/4 of business travelers saying that they would have a brand preference, over 70% of frequent and young travelers. It's clear that there's an opportunity here, and it's not just meeting consumer needs. Offering an easy-to-exercise flexibility enhancement is now a necessity to drive loyalty and satisfaction from customers who are telling us that what they need are more enhanced options, especially consumers in those highest value traveler segments, those business, frequent, and younger travelers who are spending the majority of their discretionary dollars on travel. This is where I'm going to transition to Colin, who, as I mentioned, leads flexibility at Hopper Technology Solutions. Now, we do have a solution that we've been working on for a couple of years now to directly address this increased need for flexibility while also looking for opportunities to build brand affinity. So I'm going to pass the mic to Colin to tell us a little bit more about HTS Cancel for Any Reason.
Thanks so much, Hayley. Appreciate the time and being here. So yeah, we'll dive in and talk a bit about this product. I think a lot of the data we saw from the report, I think, speaks volumes to what is changing in the market and how a solution like Cancel for Any Reason can really attack that, right, and meet the customer, what they're looking for solutions. So our product, Cancel for Any Reason for hotels, is exactly how it sounds. We've built that product from the ground up to offer customers the level of refundability they want, right? So that could either be a full or a partial refund, but it's also a profit-driving ancillary for our partners. So we've really kind of built this in a way where it's based off of simple cancellations, right? So it's fully automated and it's truly for any reason. So there are no forms, no claims. A customer can come in, for any reason at all, decide they no longer want to take that trip and their plans have changed. No problem. We can, they can cancel and we'll issue their refund. The cool thing about this product that I really like to talk about is the merchandising. So, when you think about the customer journey and how important it is in the funnel for them to shop around options, understand, what's out there for them. We can actually position cancel for any reason in two different ways. So we have what we call our bundled rates, which is where we actually take the existing rates that are from the supplier in the hotel, and we can add another option for CFAR on top of that within the rooms list. So this is not replacing any of the existing rates, but actually just giving the shopper another choice to choose from. Obviously, higher liquidity in the funnel, helping them, really understand the full flexibility and, actually help conversion too, which is extremely important in today's, modern, shopping experience. And then after that, we actually have the more traditional ancillary add-on, which is after selection. So the guest has already selected their hotel. We can take that and actually present them with an option to upgrade with similar flexibility, right? So these two options together help blend, a strong experience and full funnel for our partners and for the customer. On the other side too, right, we want to make this as easy as possible. So refunds are going back to the original form of payment. So whether that be cash, credits, or rewards, the customer can, get their money back to their wallet, and it's ease of use. So out of the box, our solution is built in a way that is easy for our partners to integrate and also for customers to get their refund. So it's a really, strong play on both sides. And I think the big thing too is, HTS is a data-first company. So our AI models behind the scenes are really what are powering this product. So, every day we're collecting billions of price shops to feed and power our fintech models. And what that's doing is it's taking all of the trip characteristics. So it can be the booking advance, the location, the type of room, right? So all trip characteristics, and then leveraging dynamic variables within the product. So that can be the price, the refund percentage, the cancellation window, or whether or not to offer it, right? So we're also looking at making sure we add true value to the customer there. But those four pieces really make sure that we offer that customer and that shop the most value for every single occurrence. So I think all those things combined with the merchandising and also the dynamic levers really create a very strong foundation and meet some of those needs that Hayley kind of touched on of what they're looking for in the modern shopping experience. And at the bottom here, I have a couple key stats that we like to call out where our customer satisfaction is very high, and I'll touch a little bit more about that around the loyalty building opportunity. And our attach rates are also very strong too. So, overall, we're seeing great results from this product since we've launched this a few years ago. I want to take a quick second to dive a little bit more into just the full flexibility of the solution here. So when you look across the board, right, there are existing rates that are already presented to the customer, and this, can be a non-refundable or partially refundable or some refundability. But within that, right, the beautiful thing about our models is that it basically takes in and can present different options based on the context of that particular shop. So there may be a non-refundable room where we can actually say, hey, we will offer a partially refundable option for the customer that is 80% refundable. Or we can make it fully refundable where the customer gets all their money back should they choose to cancel. But even if there is some refundability, which may be 3 days before check-in, we actually can take that and extend the window up until check-in time, which I think hits on one of the key points Hayley again touched on of they want that last-minute optionality, right? It is so important for them to be able to have up until check-in time or close till check-in time to make that decision because things do change, right? Life happens, and you might not be able to make a decision until 24 hours before your trip. So depending on whatever rate is out there, we can actually take that, and our model behind the scenes is creating the true value for every single shop. So this is a quick snapshot of the capabilities of the product, but just as a good representation of no matter what the rate is, we can actually present value to the customer every single time. A big thing that I often get asked is how does this product differ from traditional insurance? And I think the big thing is that the value add is pretty clear across the board. Again, as it's the name of the products is cancel for any reason. There is 0 conditions to cancel. So it doesn't matter. We don't ask the customer why are they canceling. They can come in and they will get their exercise fulfilled 100% of the time. So there are 0 questions asked, and that creates a really seamless experience from the customer from start to finish. And then I think the other thing I like to talk about is truly the NPS and the retention, where given how there are zero exclusions and the customer gets that refund, no questions asked, our NPS is 65, right? And that is industry leading. I think speaks to just how strongly this product fits within the modern traveler's needs. So anytime we talk to customers, the number one thing I hear is that it was so easy to use, and within minutes they were actually surprised, right, that they were able to get a refund as quick as they were. So really, I think a big differentiator. And then also the retention piece, where once a customer buys this product, they do associate the value with the brand and the actual hotelier that's selling the product, which is a huge value add for LTV and the loyalty retention. But again, they buy the product again. So we typically see 85% repeat attach rate on this product. So when customers buy it, they use it, they want to actually buy it again, and it creates a really strong, I think, overall flywheel for our partners. And then touch on the exercise flow, right? So the beauty of all of the modeling and how we merchandise the product is one thing, but it is the exercise where the product really shines, right? And this is where, within a few taps, this customer can come in and they see the outcome and they immediately know, okay, if I confirm my cancellation, I know exactly what I'm getting and the timeline for it. So they don't need to talk to customer support. They don't need to call the hotel. This is fully automated, built in the back end with our API, so that we actually release the inventory as soon as that customer cancels, freeing up that hotel to sell that room for additional revenue. So one thing that we look at and we see in our data is that customers are typically canceling about 20 days before check-in time. So what that does is that not only is the revenue created from their initial sale of the CFAR and at the time of purchase, but when that booking is canceled and we refund the guest, that inventory is released back into the system for the hotel to sell again. So it creates a really strong value proposition for the customer, because their plans have changed, they cancel, get a refund, and then the hotel can resell that room. But as you can see here, within 2 taps, a few clicks, they can cancel, get their outcome, and really creates that strong value proposition from start to finish. And so the big thing here is it's a global product, right? So we've sold millions of our fintech products across 180 countries and growing. So the travel brands on the bottom here are just a snapshot of this, but it really speaks to, I think, the strong validation of the product and what we're seeing in that data, right? So customers are seeking this out, and our partners are seeing the strong addition to their funnel and the increased loyalty, and how really it becomes a full and strategic part of their product and their offering going forward. And I think all the data that we've seen have really kind of touched on that. But more importantly is the loyalty opportunity that fintech creates. So I touched on a little bit of this already, but just to double down, right? The repeat attach rate is, I think, extremely important, where customers see this as a must-have when they travel. So after they bought the product once, they see the value and they want to come back and buy it again and again. And that kind of leads to the high NPS and our customer satisfaction of 65 and 90% plus CSAT scores, which are, again, industry leading. And again, the user testimonies at the bottom, I think, speak to the importance of what we've kind of built up and created for these customers. So it's really like, we are working backwards from the long-term value of our partnerships and their customers, and this product, I think, is at the center of that. And the big thing too is when we launch this product, it only gets better. So once we get some real data and we understand the specific user, their tendencies in the space and how they actually are behaving and looking at the product, we will work with our partners to grow that and iterate over time. So, we're typically seeing 100% attach growth after the partner first launches this product. So really, again, a signal where once we get this product live, we can work with the partner to understand their customer base and then tackle, those specific needs, whether that be for the business traveler, Gen Z, millennials, right? So we're looking at all of that to make sure it's continuing to be a strong addition for our partnerships. And earlier this year, we kind of went to market with this product, and you can see that some of the great news headlines that we had. So it complements a lot of the data that we shared earlier, where it is seen as a fundamental shift, right? This is no longer a nice to have; it's a competitive advantage. So bringing this product to market has really shown that, hey, not only are customers asking for it, but also it is a must-have for hoteliers in the space. And there are plenty of coverages, and there's also some videos there if you want to click and learn more about this product on the HTS website. But overall, I think speaks to not only what we see from our data, but also from the industry and the category overall, that flexibility is now top of mind, and the press on this is continuing to increase as a lot of things happen in the world with the modern traveler. And with that, I kind of want to shift gears into a case study. We launched this product with Cloudbeds, which is a leading booking engine. And they are a global brand operating the booking engine for 20,000 independent hotels. They're a global company working with 14 different countries. And what we've seen is that by offering this product directly in their booking engine, we're seeing a lot of that results kind of transfer in real time right into the market, where we're already seeing strong attach rates, and we already see signals for improving that over time with new merchandising opportunities and other ways to position it for the Cloudbeds customer. And I think that again, once we see this this product in the market and something like this, we can say, okay, this is this is no longer a question of, hey, this is something that might be interesting for customers and partners, but it really is real. And the partners are seeing that in Cloudbeds. I'll pull Sebastian here a second to talk through it, but overall, I think a great use case and a case study for how this product kind of brings to life the importance of flexibility and kind of closes that gap for the modern traveler. So without further ado, I will bring in Sebastian now to kind of talk through exactly what he's seen in this space and talk through his experience with Cancel for Any Reason, and also how he sees flexibility as an industry leader in the space. So Sebastian, thanks so much for joining us today. For those of you that don't know, can you give a quick intro about yourself and what Cloudbeds does?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Thank you, Colin, for having me. Well, first of all, Cloudbeds is the hospitality management system built for ambitious hoteliers who demand more. Our platform unifies operation, distribution, guest experience, and revenue marketing, giving operators tools to capture demand, grow direct bookings, optimize pricing, maximize upsell revenue, and act on real-time intelligence within a single system. Designed to scale with independent hotels, large hotel groups, and multi-property portfolios, Cloudbeds is trusted by tens of thousands of properties around the world in about more than 150 countries. So we have a little bit of work to do, Colin.
Nope.
Founded in 2012, Cloudbeds is recognized as a top hotel management system, PMS and channel manager, and best place to work by Hotel Tech Report for 8 consecutive years. I'm fortunate enough to run partnerships, and it's been a pleasure, Colin, to work with you to really scale this program.
Absolutely. So, with that, Cloudbeds recently implemented Cancel for Any Reason, powered by HTS. So, can you tell me a bit about, what was most attractive about the product to you?
Sure. Look, travel is messy. It's cross-border, it's cross-state, it's cross-country. We needed a product that provides flexibility and availability across 150 countries, for instance, where we have properties, without the insurance hassle. What we discovered is that it nicely pairs with creating great guest experiences and improving revenues for hoteliers. Higher conversion and guaranteed revenue for hoteliers, it's a no-brainer.
Makes perfect sense. And before partnering with HTS, what options did independent hoteliers on Cloudbeds have when it came to offering guests cancellation flexibility? What gap did that leave for your customers, in your opinion?
Sure. I mean, look, a lot of innovative hoteliers were looking at doing their own research, finding an insurance broker that covers some, usually not most of their guest profiles, negotiate an automatic integration. The list is long. Most of them got stuck on the process. So this is really when, Hopper, when the conversation started between our two companies, we really embraced the opportunity.
That's great. And so tell me a bit about, what are you hearing directly from your hotel partners and their guests since launching, Cancel for Any Reason for hotels? Have there been any reactions that maybe, surprised you so far?
Absolutely. Two things consistently stand out. First, they love the guaranteed revenue and conversion lift. Second, they're seeing a better experience for both guest and staff. When plans change, the flexibility is already built in, which helps frontline teams spend less time navigating difficult conversations and more time delivering great guest experiences.
That's great. That's great to hear. So independent hotels have historically had to compete, against OTAs and large hotel chains that can absorb, free cancellation policies. So how has CFAR for hotels, changed what your partners can offer and how they position themselves against these larger players? Because that is, of course, key to your business and how you think about, competing with those players.
Absolutely. Scale matters. An independent hotel that partners with a platform like Cloudbeds gains access to capabilities that simply aren't achievable alone. Whether that's a unified data architecture like Signals, which connects every corner of your operation on a single data model that AI can easily query, or deep integrations with partners like Google and Hopper. Scale is what makes enterprise-grade technology accessible to independent hotels.
Awesome. So, as I kind of covered earlier, Cloudbeds is currently seeing a 6% attach rate in your first month live. And what other measurable results are you tracking? So, what do you see the partnership going from here? If you can kind of touch on that for the audience.
Absolutely. In our opinion, we're just getting started, and we do believe there's a significant opportunity to improve the attach rate. Understanding variables and working with our properties and customers to help structure, for instance, cancel policies and benefits associated with them will help scale the program further. I wouldn't be surprised to see an attach rate of 10% and plus before the end of the year.
Very excited to be working out with you, and I agree. Thank you so much, Sebastian. Really appreciate your time and joining us today. And again, great to see the results thus far on Cloudbeds, and really excited for the future.
Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you both, Sebastian and Colin, for joining. I think it's really exciting to not just see the demand in the market for a product, but also be able to hear from you, Sebastian, about how immediately we see a positive product market fit for both hoteliers and for clients, especially in a hyper-fragmented space like the independent hotel space. So thank you to everyone who tuned in today. We appreciate both your time and your attention. As I mentioned earlier in the webinar, we do have a full long-form report with all of these insights and many more. If you are interested in digging a little bit deeper, feel free to use the QR code on the right side of your screen here to tap and download the report. It's also available at hts.hopper.com. We host webinars regularly and release reports regularly on that website. So follow us on LinkedIn. Feel free to check back on the website for some of our other interesting data-driven research. And as always, if you have any questions, any follow-ups, and are interested in learning more about this research or the Cancel for Any Reason product, please feel free to reach out to htsinsights@hopper.com, and we will get back to you with the right folks. Thank you again for your time. It was great to have you join us today, and we hope you tune in for our next webinar.